This will be your quarters for the evening. Well, at the Phantomhive estate, we ensure that our guests are pampered. Yes, I'll be certain to wake you in the morning so you won't miss breakfast with the young lord. It's not unusual for the master's business partners to stay the night after dinner. The weather can be unpredictable in this area. Yes, the downpour is almost alarming. But don't worry. There are safety measures that have been taken in order to avoid any kind of flooding. The thunder we can't accommodate for, unfortunately. Does the thunder frighten you? Well, that's no good. A warm cup of milk perhaps soothe you. I'm not calling you childish. I'm simply offering a solution. It was not my intention to offend. My apologies if it came off that way. Oh, you have something in mind? A bedtime story. I might need to take back my earlier statement. Once again, I jest, but as you request, I shall read you a bedtime story. Let's see what we have here. It's not much, but the household always keeps a few popular books in each guest room, so you won't need to wander the halls of sleep slipping away from you. Ah, I haven't read this one in a while. Past guest must have brought it in from the estate library. This is the collection of short stories by Nicholas Mao. I won't impose an opinion about him. You can make one for yourself after I read to you. So please, make yourself comfortable. This story is titled A Fox in the Woods. There is no beauty like that of love in a rotting land. Food would only become harder to come by. Farmlands are rotting and barren. Yes, it's a dreary start, but you did ask for a story. Just lay your head down and indulge me, won't you? Oh my, it seems you don't have a choice. How you flinch and cower in terror is unfortunate. Now listen. Before I was so rudely interrupted. Even as Anne struggled to keep her father fed, the young woman is blessed with a stable home until our people could no longer survive without wails of grief in the streets and food rotting in the mouths of our youth. Anne learned a way to feed her daughter that many didn't think of. The woods produced and supported those who gave it the chance. Their homes stayed warm even while shops burned without workers in them. Jobs becoming harder to sustain and come by. You certainly settled down. Would you like me to keep reading? As you wish. Now, where was I? Even with the land and people rotting away, Anne found calm in the woods. She wore near rags much like many women. The mud and soot made it only more pitiful. No man would give her a second glance. However, the whistles of birds and creatures residing in the wood made her forget all those who passed her by. The rustling of leaves filled her ears every time. Anne despised men and their mannerisms. Her green pools of light in the dark land watched a different target. Like a hunter in the thicket, her eyes studied the woman as her only prey in the land. A woman that looked to be thinner than the branches. Cloth hung off her body, just laundry on a clothesline. Anne adored her and the tangled ebony locks that rested on her shoulders and back. Shh, you're all right. I assure you the thunder won't harm you in the slightest. And as the butler to this estate, I wouldn't condone any harm to my guests. It wouldn't be worth a teaspoon of salt if I did. Now, no more interruptions. To her surprise, Elizabeth came forward in the night and offered her a bundle of wild flowers after being hunted for so long. She'd known all along, so Anne had her father make her a ring of copper. He wished to meet the man that was to wear it, but she'd refuse. Days and nights after the request, Anne presented a ring of copper that in Elizabeth's eyes could have been worth more than any gold. And Elizabeth frolicked in the wilderness as if there was food for everyone and they never had to go home. But at dusk the women would sit on a tall rock, watching the sun leap us in each other's embrace. A fox appeared at the place that they wished to call their own. Elizabeth told her love the fox had attacked her before in those woods. There were scars to prove it. But when Anne tore down a branch and whipped it at the fox, Elizabeth pushed her away. But in return, the fox snarled and ripped the thin cloth that hung from the dark-haired woman's body. Anne begged her wife to be rid of the animal, but Elizabeth wouldn't move to the song that Anne tried to sing to her. Instead, they met and cherished one another on that rock with the fox watching them from the distance. Anne despised the animal. Many times she would march into the wood at dawn with a stone in hand, searching for the creature that dared to harm the woman she loved. But the fox only came when Elizabeth was with her, as if it wasn't watching them, but only the thin woman. Anne pursued the maiden so long, but the fox was so attached to her love it seemed like it was always there. Just never noticed it somehow. But even with the awful animal there, the women were in love and embracing the world they had created in the woods. But on an autumn evening, the two stood together in the fading light of the sun, lips dancing to the tune of lovers. The red fox dashed out of the brush and jumped on Elizabeth, and pushed Elizabeth anyway from the edge. But as she stood behind her, the jump hit her last, sending the woman with eyes of fresh moss the tall rock and down. Elizabeth wailed and grieved, believing that her wife had perished. She wept for 2 suns and moons before, in her torn agony, Anne had met her on the rock once more. The woman had gashes and scrapes of landing onto stone and thorn. For a whole day she crawled up and staggered to her home. Her father scolded her carelessness, letting a fox get so near, but he knew nothing of Elizabeth, so Anne was content. The two gasped and cried. Elizabeth was happy and felt full inside, despite her stomach saying otherwise. Anne couldn't feel the ache of her wounds when in the arms of her beloved. But for some time she thought Elizabeth had more scars than just one fox could provide. She looked like a pack of wild dogs who tried to whisk her away on a starving night. Though since the day she had found herself back in Elizabeth's arms, Anne swore to kill the fox. And she swore to do it herself, not with a rock or a stick, but with her own roughly textured hands. But Elizabeth grew ill, much like many of the town. What contents her stomach held were emptied soon after eating. Illness had spread in all our homes. Land could grow nothing, and no one could buy medicine to save our families. When Elizabeth and Anne could wander again in the paths of dirt and green, they walked to the rock cautiously, just in case the fox would come again. They sat together and talked, spoke of a place far away where they could live together and bring children up. But Anne came too close to the edge. She believed the fox had gone, but the creature roamed about them and came out of the brush, sat in the rock, and watched both of the women, but did not move. Elizabeth spoke of something that made Anne freeze like a winter stream. Her breath got stuck in her throat and warmth poured out from inside of her. Anne fell from the rock once again, but this time it was only words that caused her to go tumbling down onto stones and thorns. A chilling stream ran discreetly below the rock only in this season. Anne didn't crawl. She didn't move or wail for help from her love. She remained still. The fox. The fox was to blame, she told her love, who had run down the path to seek her now damaged Anne. The woman didn't get to hear a response from Elizabeth before floating down the cold stream. Fingers cold like winter winds. Every romance must end in tragedy. Sound asleep, are you? Because I was right to call you childish. Beware of any foxes in your slumber.